Good evening. Welcome to Forbes. My name is Alyssa. I'm the music director of Kappa Kappa Psi, the organization that is behind pretty much putting this on. Welcome. This event, Band-O-Rama, this honor band, has been a dream of our chapter for the past 6 years. We used to do it annually, and then due to COVID, we had to stop. So this year is the first year we've been able to successfully put on another honor band close to the one that we used to. We have been working diligently since April through many different emails and sources and just everything you can possibly think of. I am extraordinarily proud of the students behind me right now. Today alone, they had rehearsals with our assistant director of bands, Mr. DeVona, and our director of bands, Dr. Christopher Cicconi. They had masterclasses with JMU faculty. They did mock auditions with JMU faculty feedback. They did sectionals with Kappa Kappa Psi brothers, and they went on tour of campus, all just today. Can I get a round of applause for being behind me? Thank you so much for being here. It makes my heart so happy to see so many people supporting groups that I am so proud to be a part of. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the conductor of our first piece, our director of bands, Dr. Christopher Cicconi.
Thanks so much again for coming out. I do want to mention, Alyssa was talking about just a moment ago, like the speed of today, of just like the pace of how things happen today. And to put in perspective a bit, we have today, I think, Dr. Cicconi, about 5 hours of rehearsal, something about that? About 5 hours to put on a concert program. Roughly equivalent to 1 week of school in a band program at a high school, right? So what these students did today is they essentially came in this morning, having looked at the music, however much they may have looked at it, and we put together an entire concert program. They put together a concert program in what is effectively a week of school rehearsals, right? And this is amidst all the county bands and the district bands and all state audition preparation. We call this honor band season, when there are just a million bands that happen like every weekend. And it really is astonishing the amount of stuff that these students have done in just one day, the amount of repertoire they've learned. So one more time, please, for our students in my work. Our next two pieces, an interesting thing here, the Shenandoah, Omar Thomas, and Percy Grainger, Spoon River. We're going to play these two connected as one piece of music across the whole thing, and I apologize, you got to sit through a geography lesson here. Right, so Shenandoah, it's about the Missouri River. It's the big river to the west of the Mississippi that feeds down into the Mississippi. Shenandoah, the tune comes from like 1830s-ish, and again, that Mississippi watershed area. Spoon River is actually a tributary to the Illinois River, the other big river that creates the Mississippi. So this comes just east of the Mississippi. Also the tune Spoon River from around 1830, 1840. So we're in that sort of Mississippi range, 1830s antebellum South kind of deal. It's very much, if you've ever read like Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, this is the world that we're living in. And these two tunes, it's fascinating because they paint a picture of the same place in two totally different ways. You have Shenandoah is this beautiful chorale-like piece, right? You probably know the melody from somewhere, but it sort of sings along and it talks about like the beauty of the place and the mountains and the landscape and the rain and all this great stuff. And Spoon River is just an absolute dance tune. It's a fiddle tune from somewhere that Percy Grainger decided worked out really well for band, so it just dances right along for about 4 minutes and it's sort of a party for band. And the way these composers do it is entirely different, right? Omar Thomas, he takes Shenandoah, instead of painting it in, as you would expect from band music, like the first piece we heard, it's very, like we call it bandy music, not in a bad way, just it's bandy stuff. There's a melody that trucks along and the percussion, jump, chicka dump, chicka dump, chicka dump, chicka dump in the back, and it just sort of flows along. The trumpets play the melody, the saxophones play it, and then hi-ya, we play loud, we're done. What Omar Thomas does instead, he paints this. He sort of takes the melody and he phases it in and out of focus, right? If he's painting Shenandoah Valley, it's very much a watercolor painting. There aren't these nice pristine lines. It's just sort of a wash of melody that comes in and out of focus as it moves through the band. He doesn't use the band like most composers do. He sees this as a collection of instruments that can play snippets of melodies, and he can phase the color in and out and shift this thing into this very atmospheric idea. And so he's painting Shenandoah Valley in a gentle rain, as you might see today, right? So you hear the trickling of rain that comes in and out as we go. And then as the rain trickles away, right, then the dance tune comes out. You'll hear the dance begin. It starts over in marimbas and bassoons, and then out come, perhaps Tom Sawyer and the Merry Band of Bandits, as he calls it, right? That's when the dance tune starts and the mischief begins. So here's Omar Thomas's Shenandoah straight into Percy Grainger's Spoon River.
So what do you think? So a lot goes into this day. Chris DeVona and I have the fun job. We get to come up and conduct and work with this wonderful ensemble. However, a lot of other things had to happen. Lunch reservations. How do we get percussion equipment here? Contacting all of the faculty to make sure that they can be here to give masterclasses. Making sure all the rooms are unlocked. Figuring out what the loading dock's going to do. And so all of that stuff just doesn't really happen without a ton of work. And so I would like to thank Alyssa Bonner and the brothers of Kappa Kappa Psi for all of everything, like the emails that went out to directors and choosing the musicians and copying them, everything. Keeping track of me, that's hard. So all of that stuff is done by the students here at JMU, and they really are second to none. So can you help me thank Alyssa Bonner and the brothers of Kappa Kappa Psi? To echo what my colleague Chris DeVona said, yeah, just about 5 hours of rehearsal today on music that a lot of them got today. And it's not easy music, and they jump around and they switch parts and things like that. And it's been a real pleasure to work with them over this day. And so I'm really excited for our last piece. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for coming out in the rain. We really wanted to, give you the Shenandoah experience with that. And so, but we're going to end our concert today with Undertow. But before we do that, can you please once again congratulate this wonderful ensemble on stage? What do you think of our concert? So again, thank you for spending the day with us. Well, thank you for spending the day with us. Thank you for your support in music education and for being a part of this. It's a really wonderful thing to bring students from all over the state to do something that's really good. And so thank you for your support. Keep doing that, and we look forward to seeing you at future events. Thank you.